Hi, I'm Brandon Poe, founder of Poe Group Advisors and creator of the Accounting Practice Academy. You are listening to the Accountant's Flight Plan podcast, where we talk about stuff in the accounting world. If you're looking to buy or sell a practice, we are the premier accounting practice intermediary firm in the industry. Check us out at pogroupadvisors.com. If you're a firm owner looking to build a more profitable practice while actually reducing owner hours, sign up for our practice management workshop, which only runs a few times per year. Learn more at accountingpracticeacademy.com. Welcome to our podcast. I'm really excited today. We've got a guest that's in a little bit of a unique topic for us. Justin Hatch is the co-founder and CEO of Reach Reporting, which is the leading visual reporting software on the market. He's an industry expert in business management, specializing in software development and financial reporting. Hatch co-founded Reach Reporting in 2015, and they just launched March of 2020. Wow, interesting time to launch, right?
Right at the worst time ever.
COVID-19 launched, right?
Yeah.
But you've been experiencing a growth rate of over 30% per month. Wow, that's got to be a fun ride.
It is crazy.
So you guys were awarded the 2020 Best Value and Ease of Use Award from Capterra. And you provide software that simplifies complexity, the complexity of financial data, which allows accountants to relay quick, actionable, decisive information to clients. And we're lucky because you're passionate about educating advisors through software that can save people time. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. It's super great to be here. Seriously, yeah. Thank you for taking the time, Brandon.
Well, before we get into the questions that I had kind of prepared for you, I want to hear about this 30% growth rate, because it's that people don't realize like how that's both fun and crazy at the same time, right? Like
it's so it was a long time coming. I mean, we effectively started in March of 2015, and we hit the market with a software that was actually designed for BI for SMB audiences. And what actually happened is over time, we started to have this one demographic, one audience kept coming back to us and saying, hey, we're so close to a solution here that would really affect our industry. And that was the CPAs, CFOs, fractional CFOs, advisors, so on, bookkeepers, tons of bookkeepers. And we had these people coming to us and they said, if you make this pivot and this pivot, and you read all these business books and they say, stick to it, don't deviate, don't marginalize you, don't, and so at first we were hesitant, but I mean, I don't need to get hit on the head 10 times before I start to realize there's something here. And we started to realize that there was a desperate need by these particular individuals that for a reporting solution that met their needs. There's these reporting solutions out there and they're available, but they're different. They're not specifically designed for the accountant. And so we had it was years coming, and it was years getting into this. And so we didn't really launch till right, like you said, right in the heart of COVID, where we just started to get serious about launching a fully operable product to the market.
Yeah. Wow. So you did all this sort of building and developing and testing,
relationships, and
then, okay, boom, we got it. Now we're ready to go to market, and the market responded well. It seems like, so that's awesome.
Yeah. We've been building a lot of relationships over that time. And so there was, and 30% growth at the beginning is not that exciting because, going from $0 to $1 is a, big percentage of growth, but it's been sustained. I mean, we've seen that there's a lot of groups out there that are coming to us and saying, okay, how do we integrate something like this? And my business is in this podcast, of course, is in no way to pitch the product, but what's been fun is I've gotten to know this particular part of the audience. I've gotten to know who they are, what their needs are. I've gotten to see some that are phenomenally successful and some that are not there yet.
Yeah.
and to see what they're doing and how they're applying different principles and what those principles are. And that's what, hopefully we can talk about a little bit during this, but what are the things that are making different firms more or less successful?
Yeah.
I mean, we all hear this big push to advisory all the time, but how do you do that in a way that you don't alienate your current market? You don't mess things up there. Like there's a lot of big steps. And so we got to be really careful as we make that transition if we're interested in doing that.
Yeah. Interesting. So, well, let's get back. Tell me a little bit more about yourself, just personally. You shared with me before we started recording that you moved from Canada, which is interesting. We do a lot of business in Canada. So, yeah, just tell me about your background. How did you get into this business? I mean, how did this idea even hatch?
Yeah, the pun intended. Yeah, it is as I was raised in an entrepreneurial world. My dad was always into it, and so my family got into it, and so when I was a wee lad, I started a business right away, and you don't have to be in business long to realize how little you know about being in business. There was a lot of questions I had, and for a lot of years, a couple of years, I really struggled to get things going. I mean, I didn't fully understand the accounting side of it, and I got older and I learned, and then I eventually got headhunted by an oil and gas company up in Edmonton, and I went and worked for them for about 8 years as a vice president, and we did all sorts of crazy things. But during that time, they wanted to open up operations here in the U.S., and so they actually sent me down here to the U.S. to open up a facility and to work that facility, hire the team, and build it all out. And so I was there for a few years, and the time came for me to set sail. And you always kind of know when that's going to happen. And so I did, and I kind of built up a bit of a nest egg, and I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. And I thought back to, seriously, what are the pains that really affected me? I mean, you've got to do something that you're relatively passionate about. And so what were the pains that really affected me? And I thought, maybe there's a way to build analytics for people that are in small businesses to help them understand what's actually happening in their business. And what's interesting, I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? But well, should we change that? Does it need to be like hindsight's 2019 or 2021? but either way, hindsight is very clear. But I looked back and I realized that it was this perfect scenario to get us towards working with accountants, because what it enabled us to do is it enabled us to have these analytics that we could provide to the clients. We're providing the BI, but it's really through their accountant. And so it became this relationship where we could really assist the accountant as an advisor to provide reporting to their clients. And that was a big deal. That's a big deal for a lot of firms out there that are desperately trying to get the word out on what's happening with the specifics of your business, where people don't fully understand what's happening. They don't actually know where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Are you familiar with EO at all?
Yeah, you bet.
So I'm actually president of EO Charleston, and I've been in the EO for a while. And these are all business owners, right? So we're all business owners in all these different fields. And I'm a CPA, so I understand my numbers pretty well just because of that. But it's amazing how many business owners don't know their numbers. And these are successful people. These are, to be an EO, you have to reach a certain level of revenue. And it's amazing that people can get to a level of success without really understanding a lot of the numbers.
Amazing.
And just think how much more successful they could be with a little more more
Yeah.
insight.
Oh, and we have to echo that, we have stories, 9 ways to Sunday that tell that exact same thing, where we'll have a COO that doesn't know the difference between profit and revenue, and let alone gross and net profit. I mean, forget about those. I mean, we're just talking profit and these are big concerns, and they may in essence know what they are, what the difference is, but in practice, they'll want to sell a product for X number of dollars, and they think every dollar of that can then be used to go buy something else. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. The money's already spent. You didn't actually, and so there's so many little things that we can help people get a deeper understanding of how they're doing.
And as an accountant, it was strange to me to step into that world and realize just how much ignorance there is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of accountants they just assume that their clients understand these things in a way that they don't. And they don't.
That's funny you say that. I learned a word in the oil and gas industry. And it's funny because when you learn a new word, the best way to describe that thing you're describing is with that word. But you're the only guy that knows it. And so there's a couple of them. One of them was rectification, and the other one was flame impingement. And
never heard
and they're words that and I'd never heard them before myself. And I was like, oh well, rectificate, like somebody would say that, and I think, are they what are they saying? Is that a dirty word? Like what are they like what does it mean? But once I learned the word, once I learned what it meant, it became part of my vocabulary. And it became the most logical way. And I'm a logical person. You're a logical person. We're all logical people in our own minds, especially. And so it became the most logical way to describe what was happening. And rectification, I won't even get into what it is. It has to do with flames and electricity and stuff. It's actually, what's really cool, it's the ability to conduct electricity through a flame.
Oh.
So cool. I know. Like there's so much cool stuff out there. Anyway, so that was rectification. And so if I would say that made so much sense to me, but I would say it to people and they'd be like, they're oil and gas people. They'd be like, what do you mean? Like, is that like a thermocouple? Like, no, not at all. It's da 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 da. And as accountants, we do the same thing. We learn these words and we're really good at them. The best way to describe something is with that series of words, because we understand this jargon. And once we understand that, the absolute best way to try to pass that on to our clients is via that jargon. But if they don't understand the language, we are literally speaking a different dialect. I mean, quite literally, we have words that they don't know what they are.
Yeah. And it takes a pretty confident client to pipe up and go, I don't understand what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. Ego gets involved. Involved. And you don't want to be that guy that's like, you just said something that I don't know what that is. And, but you're working for me technically, and I'm the big, and my people are around. Yeah. Just, there's all sorts of stuff that causes us not to bring it up.
Yeah. But it's an interesting problem that you're helping to solve, because I feel like I didn't realize the extent of the problem until I stepped into EO. And I think if accountants really understood the extent of the problem, more of them would sort of gravitate toward more advisory work.
Yeah.
Because there is a need. My point is there's a big need. And I wish more accountants saw that and felt the need to fill it.
I was telling, there's a story that I always tell, and my team mocks me all the time because it's a favorite of mine, because it was a highly emotional story for me. It's a very memorable story. I was sitting in front of a board of directors. I was a VP at this oil and gas company. We were now on the NASDAQ. We had some of the smartest people you'd ever meet. We had the former CFO of NASA on the board. I mean, these guys, the collective net worth of these guys, who knows what it was? It was awesome to even just get to hang out with them. But I was presenting to them, with all my big words, right? And you go into those things and you're nervous, right? And so what do we do when we're nervous? We put up a wall, and what is that wall? Okay, well, I'm going to use all my big words, every big word I know. I'm not going to even go near subjects that I don't know perfectly. You have all these walls that you build up, and that's what I did. And so I go and sit in front of these guys, and it was Ronald Spale, and as I was presenting, he held up his hand. He said, Justin, we're a bunch of old guys here. They weren't, but he just said that. He said, we're a bunch of old guys here. We don't know quite what you're getting at. Can you simplify it for us?
Yeah.
And I thought, interesting. The one guy that's confident enough to say something said it. And then we were able to get into this conversation that was very colloquial. It was very light. And we were able to just talk about sales and development and, simple stuff, instead of me trying to like present something to make myself feel safe or look good.
And, it's interesting because I like, one of the things as we introduced you and highlighted was the simplicity. You simplify complexity of financial data. And I think, that's one of the things that we do in our business is we try to make everything easy and simple. And I feel like in some cases, there are accountants that think, well, gosh, the thicker the report, the more big words, the more complexity that I can present to the client, the more they're going to think it's valuable. And the opposite.
It actually has the opposite effect. Yeah, it has the opposite effect because you get so little out of it that you think, what's this? What am I even paying this person for?
Yeah.
And you're not, the business isn't better because of those types of reports. Our motto here at Reach is absorb complexity.
Yeah.
Wherever possible, absorb complexity. And so what I did is I absorbed complexity for that board of directors. I said, oh, okay, I'm going to take what I understand. And I was learning some pretty big words in that jargon. And I'm going to take what I understand. I'm going to give it to them, not in a fifth grader level, not in a condescending or insulting level, but I'm just going to give it in a layman's level, just in normal human terms, so that we can all understand. We can talk openly about it.
Yeah, it's it's cool that your tool helps do that simplify things. Is that sort of, well, I want to ask you about sort of like insight. What's an insight that you've learned from doing this work that you think is the major contributor to its success? Why is your product growing at 30%? Why is it?
There's one. I mean, there's a few things, and we could talk on any one of those, but we're kind of on this vein right now. There's one thing that has been enormously influential, and I'll say it whether you use Reach or not, or it doesn't matter how you're sending out your reports. You could be using any reporting solution or Excel or whatever. Always follow one simple rule: milk before meat. Milk before meat. Because the problem is, I don't care who you are, you don't want to burn calories that you don't have to burn. Our brain burns an enormous amount of the calories that we have to burn. If I am presented with this big stack report, that report could be fascinating information. But if I'm presented with that and I'm apprehensive to get into that because I know that looks painful, that's our brain conserving calories, quite literally. And so what we need to do,
too much work.
Exactly. It's so much work. And I have 500 things. I'll get to that. And we say that and we never get to it. And then the next report is already on our desk. So the number one thing in building a report is milk, then meat. And we try to stage every report that we build, every one of the Reach templates is staged just in that way. So when you come to it, you're getting metrics that are almost like dumb. Like they're just so high level. They're so simple, because what it's doing is it's getting us into the same region. And then we're not to the ballpark yet. We're just to the region. We know where there's ball fields nearby, but we're in the region. And then as you go down, you can get deeper and deeper into that until you're literally on the pitcher's mound. And as you get into that data, the nice thing about that is if the data was listed from A to Z, or Z for, our Canadian fellows, if it was listed, it is going from seeing the A level data is simple.
Yep.
There's almost
Yep.
no calorie burn. It's super simple. And going from A to B, I now have the A hook to hang B data on.
Yep.
If I didn't, then there would be some interpreting that I would have to do to understand B and C and D and so on. And so what we can do is provide that data. If we can provide that in a way that our clients, it resonates with them, the effects are dramatic, because now the client doesn't value the report, they value us. And I don't say us as Reach Reporting, I say us as their advisor.
Reporter. Yeah.
Yep.
It's interesting because as you're saying that, it's how we sell CPA firms. So we give buyers just the big high level. And then I say, like, we want to give you the 50,000 foot view, and then we want to wind down into it. And that's because you can't start off on the pitcher's mound, because then you don't have the context and you get lost.
Right.
And so
without
the context, the information is meaningless.
Right.
And
and if you don't take the time to digest it, because the information might all be there.
Yeah.
If we don't take the time to digest it, it's meaningless anyway.
Right.
So it's a catch-22 in that situation. So you never want to start in that.
It's funny that you've harnessed the power of the human laziness brain. It's like it's like we're all kind of lazy, right? We want everything as easy as it can be, and
right.
It's just the truth of how our brains work, right?
Yeah, well, and honestly, I mean, if there's going to be something that's going to really affect our economy and help the economy to, get back to its booming state, and some groups are booming for sure, but there's others that are really struggling.
Yeah.
It's understanding what's happening. I mean, if you ask me for directions to the top of that mountain, I'm going to say, you're on the phone with me, I'm going to say, where are you?
Yeah.
Where are you right now? If you can't tell me that, then I can't tell you how to get to the top of the mountain. I can't. I can't give you directions. Walk towards it. That's like saying I'm going to be a millionaire someday. That's meaningless in terms of information. So first is to understand where we are. Second is to understand what's the goal? What's the objective? And then the third is, how are we going to get there? And that's what these reports can be built on, is how. This is where we're at. This is where we need to go. How are we going to get there? And that's where reports become ultra powerful.
Yeah.
Because now you have people that are frantically looking for, okay. So we need to do this, and here's our target, and blah, 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 blah. That's when the value of that report goes through the roof. But again, they're not valuing Reach reporting. Reach can only help the advisor get to that. It doesn't really help the client get to that. The advisor then uses the Reach tool. And so that's why we've built it the way we have, is because it really enables those next steps to be taken by the advisor as they're providing this solution. And then clients will pay unbelievable amounts of money for that. We've seen billing that is insane. So
how did you come to that discovery about how people digest information? Because it's you've gotten a lot of clarity. I mean, the milk before meat, you've definitely done a lot of thinking about this topic.
We have, yeah. A big part of it has said, if Reach is in business to make the lives of CPAs, CFOs, accountants, bookkeepers, whatever, better, then us going out and taking the, what was that old subscription software, or that where you subscribe, Columbia Records?
Yeah.
Remember that? Like way back.
Send in your mail.
Yeah, and if you forget to cancel, we're going to send you the next one, and we got you, and whether you wanted it or not, if we take that mentality where our focus is just get as much money out of our clients as possible, our clients, not they're our clients, but if we take that is such a short game for us. That means we will end up losing clients left, right, and center, just like Columbia Records did, and ultimately led to their demise. because people were so grumpy about it, and canceling was such a challenge. Everything about that was such a pain point. So what we said instead was, okay, how can we take this solution? And we're just getting warmed up. We have stuff that's coming down the pipeline that's going to be really fun over the next 2 or 3 years. But we said, how can we make this process so much easier for accountants? And we started to apply the mantra, how our job is to make you look good. Our job is to make you look good. The client will never know that report came from Reach. 99 times out of 100, they will never know that they came from Reach.
That's cool.
It comes from the accountant, and they value the accountant because of that. So that was critical. So we then researched all sorts of things, how we can make firms better. And then we'd hear of one firm doing one thing a particular way, and we said, oh yeah, we need to enable that so all of the firms that we work with can do that exact same thing. That's super powerful. And how do we do that? So on.
Yeah, it's well, playing the long game, it might be a little slower to get there, but it's the right way to play it, for sure. Well, I think this year has been transformational for the accounting industry. I talk with people who have made incredible change this year, and they've also had, I think, a lot of just demands on their time. Like, it's just been crazy year with PPP here in the US, and tax deadlines getting changed around. I think most of the CPAs I've talked with have been incredibly busy. And this year, is people are changing their mindsets around things. So what is your take on the impact that sort of this year has thrust upon us?
I think there's a few things that are going to be lasting. I'm going to use the word blessings, positive effects, I guess, from COVID. One of them is that your market just opened wide open. You are now no longer restricted to your city or the town that you're in. You can, and we have CPAs that have clients all over the nation, and they only have 10 or 15, but they have exactly the targeted client. So that gets me to point number two. Number two is now we can become specialists. We don't have to be everything for everyone, because that is the worst thing you can do. Reach reporting. We've had companies, massive billion-dollar companies, come to us and say, hey, you need to get into this market, and this market, and this market. And we thought, we're not even everything to our CPAs yet. Yeah. We still have some room to grow here. I mean, a huge amount of CPAs have never even heard of us. So it's not like we're at saturation point. And now we're looking at splitting things and now going down these. No way. We can become specialists because of this. Now you can find people that are looking for what you have. Yeah. So that's the second thing that I think COVID has really, really helped us with. The third thing, working from home. Hello. Yeah. Best thing ever. For me to see a home in a background, no big deal anymore. But it was kind of a faux pas in 2019. Yeah, it was kind of like, oh, like, why are you at home? Oh, yeah. So you don't have an office? Like, oh,
you're small.
I thought you guys were like bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. Small company.
Yeah. I thought you guys were more of a big deal. And now, I mean, we're talking to managing partners who are working from home, and it's great. And who cares? Nobody cares anymore. So, there's some really, really positive things that come from that. And I think the list goes on. I will just mention one more thing. Clients aren't, just as much as you and I aren't trying to stay in our town to find all of the clients in that town. We're competing against the two other accountants in that town who are also, the general do everything for everyone accountants. We can now hone into those things we're really interested in. Yeah. And we can share that. Heck, if we stay in the state, great. There's a lot of people in most states. Yeah. Even you're in some of our lower populated states, there's still hundreds of thousands of people, and therefore a lot of companies
Yeah.
that you can be targeting.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I can't wait for this COVID thing to be over. I'm ready for travel, and I'm ready for those things, but I think a lot of these things are going to stick. And I think what it's done for a lot of firms is it's forced them to check out other tools. They've been forced to learn how to work remotely, and their clients are doing that. So I think it's a lot easier to get people to try new tools online. There's definitely some efficiencies that we've demonstrated that we don't have to do things a certain way. So all of those things are going to be,
as much as I love a good lunch meeting, lunch meetings take all day long.
Yeah.
I mean, because it takes half the time, it takes an hour to get there. You're in the lunch for an hour, and then it takes an hour to get home. And then you got to spin back up, you're kind of spinning down before it, and you're spinning up at, I mean, you're talking a 4-hour thing. And that's if we're being efficient. This is kind of, not that lunch meetings will go away. And I certainly hope that that's not the case, but it is nice when we do have those meetings that we can have an in-person meeting and really delve in, but then 15 minutes later, we can be on the next one. Right. And with the next person, and we can be spun up. And with the way the technology is advancing, these are just going to enable us. They're really going to leverage us, where we now have these levers that can enable us to do really, really awesome things, rather than more of them. I wouldn't say even mundane, but more rote tasks, more like we just don't need to be doing this. This is ridiculous. I shouldn't be in traffic. I mean, I shouldn't be blah, blah, blah,
Yeah. But if you are in traffic, you can listen to a podcast like
and I have a good one that I would recommend.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about just what clients want from accountants. And we touched on some of that, just, kind of simplified language. They want visual reporting. What else are you seeing that maybe we haven't touched on that clients want from their accountants?
Peter Drucker invented the DIKW pyramid, the knowledge pyramid. And what it is it's a 4-level pyramid that has a row at the bottom that is data, and then information, knowledge, and wisdom. So data, information, knowledge, wisdom. When we start with data, it's best told in a simple anecdote. You and I are driving down the road, and we're in a rally car, and we're in a race, and I'm the driver, and you're the navigator. And you've been to this town a million times. This is my first time in this town. I've never been here before, but I'm driving this quick little car, and I'm zipping through these hopefully closed off streets. and you're trying to tell me, Justin, you're trying to say to me that there's a red light ahead. And so if you were to give it that information to me, that, convey that to me on the data level, you would tell me the IP address of the light, because it's connected to a digital computer network. You would tell me the GPS coordinates of the light. You would tell me the hex codes, and you would tell me the binary on off of each of the lights. You would tell me the hex codes of each of the 3 or 4 lights. You would tell me the binary on off, whether each one is on or off. And I'm not a dumb guy. I can figure that out. But I'm a little bit occupied right now. I got stuff on my mind, right? It's not that I can't handle that thick report. I can.
Just don't want to.
I don't want to. And frankly, time is of the essence right now. I need to act now, because these things are happening right now. And if I try to take the time to go back to school to learn that,
right,
it's not going to work. And so you shake your head and you realize, oh man, what have I done? And so you bump up a level. You take me to the information level, and you say, Justin, the corner of 5th and Main, there's a red light. And I'm like,
where am I? Am I on
Okay,
Fifth or am I on Main?
yeah, help me out here. I'm assuming this is on the path, but I'm still making a big assumption here. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that somewhere, I'm going to cross Fifth and Main, but I don't know anything else about it other than that. And so you realize, oh yeah. So then you jump up to the knowledge level. This is my favorite level. Knowledge level. And this is where we start to deviate a little bit from the Peter Drucker one, but it's basically the same thing. But knowledge level says, hey, Justin, there's a red light ahead.
Yeah.
What has that done for me? That is told me everything in level 1, in the data level. That has told me everything in level 2, in the information level. And it's also helped me assess what's happening. You also didn't say note. You didn't say, and for the accountants that are more wary of liability or have clients that are more concerned with liability, you also didn't say, hey, stop the car. Because frankly, that's probably wise. And let me tell you why. You don't know if the roads are slippery or not slippery. You don't know if the tires are bald. You don't know the condition of the car. You don't know how the brakes are performing. You don't know if there's a big semi behind us, that if I stop the car, this thing can stop on a dime, but that thing can't. And so we got to figure out something else. So if we throw out commands that say stop the car, we're actually in some ways taking more risk than just the assumed liability. We're doing things that we don't fully know the ramifications of those decisions. But stop the car, or there's a red light ahead, that gives context to the driver. It gives all of the information in level 1 and 2, and it assists the driver, enables the driver to make a decision right then and right there. And so that's incredibly powerful. And so what we do in all of our reporting, and I'll before I go into the reporting, wisdom is, of course, the press breaks now, and that's where we deviate a little bit from the Drucker stuff, but we can get into that on another day. But ultimately, what we try to do in all of our reporting is we try to do that exact thing. Start with the milk, end with the meat, but all the while we're providing it in a knowledge context level. Yeah. Now, as you get deeper into the meat, you can't stay in knowledge. You have to get down to information and then into the data.
Yeah. And
so the report is almost literally laid out like the bottom 3 layers of the DIKW pyramid.
Yeah. It's funny that as you're telling that story about the car, like a lot of entrepreneurial business owners, they are driving really fast through town.
Right.
It's a fast ride for a lot of them. And
we had a CPA come to us not too long ago, and she was talking about a client that she had that, let me make sure I'm telling this right. His gross profit was almost negligible. His cost of goods sold was almost the same as his sell price. But he didn't know. and so what do we do?
Eventually.
He would find out eventually. I mean, he knew he was struggling, but he couldn't figure out why. He couldn't. And I mean, to us, it seems so logical, but when you're in the mire, it's different. It's different. And who knows how they're tracking things? And is this COGS, and is the COGS being tracked properly, or is this the true variable cost? Right. And it ultimately it was more of the variable cost, and it wasn't being quite tracked properly. And there was a series of problems, but ultimately what was happening is this guy was saying, we're dying here. And he went to his accountant and he kept saying to her, we have to increase sales. And she's like, no, the last thing you need to do is increase sales, because this isn't your problem. And he's like, how can that possibly be the case? If we just get this next contract, then that will put us over the hump on this thing, and we will be solved. We will be able to.
Yeah, they're just looking at it from a cash flow,
literally cash flow perspective, and they weren't looking at it from the true cost of the product. And this lady, I mean, she came to us and she became a client of ours because her job became that role of trying to help this individual really understand where that money was going, and that it wasn't fixed costs and then these fixed costs are killing us. And if we increase sales because our gross profit is high enough that we can blah, 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 the story. She had to take all that time to try to help disseminate that. But I mean, this isn't just reserved for the people who don't know they don't know the difference between profit and revenue, or what their COGS truly is, or what their variable cost truly. This is something where you can give a report like this to Ronald Spale, the former CFO of NASA.
Yeah.
And it will still provide an enormous value. In fact, they value it 10 times more because it's concise, it's light, it's easy to digest, and so on.
Well, that's
I'm going to add this one thing. This isn't reserved for just Reach reporting. Like all of this isn't to try to get me to say, oh yeah, come use Reach. I mean, please do come use Reach, but by all means, these are tried and tested principles that we have applied in our business to enable accountants, advisors, and so on to become more effective. And this is something that a lot of people can figure out through Excel. It's something they can figure out in these other ways. So don't mistake this as a giant plug for you to come and use Reach. This is in no way is it that. It's the principle of how do we connect with our clients.
Yeah. And a lot of this that we're talking about today is mindset oriented, right? Like it's and I think that's the thing that, if people have one takeaway, it's look, your clients, they're running fast. They need actionable information, and that's what they want. That's what they want. Well, there's been a lot of kind of automation going on in the industry too. And there's a lot more. I know KPMG just came out with Spark to get into that.
Bob Buckley.
Spot. And, that's, I think a lot of people are sort of threatened by this automation that's happening. What's your take on that?
I mean, we're data guys. We live and die by data. We love the thought, just like most people do it, at least when it's not threatening us, the thought of AI, when it's assisting us with, taking care of business. I will say this, most AI that people dream about are generation 3 and 4 AI. Most AI that exists is barely generation 1. In some ways it's, and there's some argument, but in some ways it's more even a machine learning than it is AI. It's which is kind of anyway, that's why there's argument, but first of all, we got a long ways to go before we have Gen 3, Gen 4 AI. Right. Before the Terminator's coming, we got a few decades, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, we still have Gen 1. We still have the potential for Gen 2 here in the next decade. And what that means is, yes, there's going to be automation of rote tasks, but that's what we want. Yeah, that's what we want. That's why I have a Roomba. And this is my shameless plug of the day. Get yourselves a Roomba. That is the best purchase we've ever done. i7 blows my mind. Every day when I come home, there's these perfect little lines. I'm like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. So iRobot, if you're listening, you can contact me too. No, I'm just kidding. But see, that's what most AI is simplifying those kinds of tasks. And that's really what Reach is. Yeah. Every month you come to Reach and you don't have to do the work you did the prior month. Yeah. Now we look at that and we're like, oh yeah, but that's decreasing my hourly bill. I bill hourly. That's decreasing my hourly bill.
You shouldn't bill hourly.
And I agree with that. I agree. And that's a fun discussion actually. But there's a lot of us that are still billing hourly. And so we look at that and we're like, yeah, Reach is going to gobble into my hour. No. Here's what Reach does for you. It enables you to not waste your time vacuuming the floor. It enables you to not waste your time doing those rote tasks that you did the month prior. It enables you to now become instead of having to build the report month after month, you're now curating that report month after month.
Yeah.
tell me which one's more valuable to the client. Those clients gobble up, because now you can take that same time that you were spending and you can add it, put it into those things that are really have meaning for the client. Now, even if you're hourly, which like you said, I hope we can start making the transition towards value billing. And again, there's a huge discussion on that, on what things can I bill for. But this enables you to really extend again your reach, another cheesy dad pun, but this enables you to extend your reach so that you are now not doing those tasks that you probably shouldn't be spending all of your valuable time doing anyway. And now you can start getting into the real minutia, the real details, and providing information that's really, really telling for the specifics of your client.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's you know, how much time you spend on their project is kind of none of their business. You know, it's the result they're after, right? It's what they're after. And if you're focused on the result, that's going to make you a better advisor.
Totally. If I go and try to bill, you know, I'm a CPA, and even if I use reach reporting or not, it's irrelevant. But if I go and try to bill my client for a monthly report that comes out of QuickBooks, and I try to bill them $1,000 for that, just for the report, not for any of my time or any of my services, but just for that report, I try to bill that. They're not going to like that. That's not going to provide. But if I have some analytical report has detailed forecasting, is connected to their budget, has their projections in it, their goals and objectives and so on, and is connected to not only historical data, but maybe even current data.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that I'm now looking at saying, okay, this is getting really interesting. This is now a really valuable report or dashboard.
Right.
If I then take some of my knowledge and apply some, I don't know, maybe an algorithm that I'm aware of, maybe apply some seasonality. I'm pretty good in Excel and I can do some cool things, and Reach has a full spreadsheet functionality. And so if I do that, you know, maybe I can provide something now this isn't a really cool report. This is a phenomenal report. What changed? Reach didn't change. Reach did all three of those. What changed is what you're offering your clients.
Right.
It's really the package of what you're telling. And that's why we have some clients, some of our firms that are selling their clients packages that are $1,000 a month just for the reporting.
Yeah.
And the services are on top of that.
Right.
So it's because it's what's in the report. Is the critical data. It's the critical information that's in there.
Yeah.
That we need, not just some report. It's not how easy it was to make the report. It's what the report does for me.
Right. What kind of action does the client take because of it? Well, so I want to wrap things up. We got a few minutes. I want to ask you a few more questions before we let you go. But books, if you're going to recommend one book to our listeners, what would that be?
Oh gosh. Yeah, that's such a tough one. Business book?
Well, it doesn't have to
personal book.
Whatever you want to recommend.
Okay.
You mentioned Peter Drucker earlier. I love some of his.
Yeah,
books.
he's money. Yeah, but it's not going to be one of his. Carol Dweck wrote a book called Mindset. Changed my life.
Interesting.
That one was really, but that's a very personal. It's gonna extend itself into your business, of course, but that affected me in a big way. Good to Great's a really good one. I mean, it's actually
I've never heard.
Good to Great's really good. I meant Nail It and Scale It. It's right here. Nail It and Scale It's nice because as we're building our firm, we need to scale a model. If you're everything to everyone, you're nothing to everyone, or whatever however the phrase goes. We have to hone in on certain skills. And I will say this cheesy cliche thing: riches are in the niches, or niches is how most people say it. But I don't know why some places have that dialect change where they call the niche a niche, but riches are in the niches. And that's something about that's kind of cool is to think along those lines instead of trying to be everything for everyone. Think along the lines of targeting groups. I mean, we have accounts that target CrossFit boxes, and they're just really, really good at targeting CrossFit boxes because you get better at that. So nail it, then scale it would be a really, really good one.
I like that. What's one bit of advice, guidance, or life lesson you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, that's another really fun one. I'll tell you one thing that's really affected us, and it's been critical, is don't stop. And really what the saying is have grit. Don't give up. I always use the analogy of looking under, we're looking for grubs in a rock field, and I look under this rock and there's no grubs. And so I go to the next rock. A lot of people call that a failure in business. They look at that in business and they're like, oh, well, you checked out the market and you totally failed at that, getting that. It's like, okay, I guess that could be an interpretation of that. But when we consider it flipping over rocks, we don't ever think of it that way. We think of, okay, how many rocks do I need to flip over before I find some grubs? And I don't know where that analogy came from. And I don't know why we would be looking for grubs, but either way, the analogy fits. Those aren't failures. And so by all means, find what you're good at. Find what you're passionate about. And that is not to say that it's going to be fun and it's going to be, follow your dreams and all that stuff, but find what you're passionate about and find what things that really resonate to you. We have CPAs that are really, really good at valuations. We have CPAs that are really, really good at providing a where are you now report. That's hard. It's a hard thing to do. It's not just done by downloading some report from somewhere and then copying it. So find what you're really good at and hone in on that thing. Find that niche and really, really target it. That would be the one piece of advice I would definitely give. Yeah. And it doesn't fly in the face of Simon Sinek's stuff where don't follow your dreams, and it doesn't fly in the face of the follow your dream stuff. It's kind of in between. It's find what you're good at, find what you're passionate about, and really, really hone into how that can provide value.
Yeah, that's cool. And last but not least, what's the best way for people to follow and connect with you?
Oh, yeah. Check us out at reachreporting.com. We're on Facebook and Twitter. I think we're primarily on LinkedIn. But by all means, reachreporting.com. Come check us out. Mention the show and we'll take really good care of you. We'll get you a coupon or something. We'll figure that out, but we'll take good care of you. And by all means, we'd love to see any of your listeners.
Awesome. Well, Justin, thank you so much. This has been a really lively, fun conversation. I've enjoyed it. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. It's super fun to hang out.
Thanks for listening to the Accountant's Flight Plan podcast. If you like what you heard today, please follow us so that you can get updates when new episodes are released, and share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. You can also follow Poe Group Advisors on social media. Please visit our website for more information at pogroupadvisors.com.